Mr. Walker, if you look around the world and you see all this turmoil, is there any part of the world not touched by chaos?
Well, it's a very messy world. We are going through times of turmoil all around. I'm coming from Chile, my country, which in a very surprising way in recent weeks has been under turmoil. Now, we don't have to idealize a past. For example, we've had an authoritarian past. In many countries and regions of the world, we are living in a post-authoritarian setting. So let us not lose sight of the fact that in spite of everything, there's some resilience of democracy. But certainly we're going through very, very messy times.
Is that true to South America, Central America, the same way? Is it worse today than it was?
No, it is not worse. Look, I was raised under a dictatorship, the Pinochet dictatorship.
Yes.
That practiced state terrorism, torture, desaparecidos, political executions. So I was a human rights lawyer at the age of 23 under Pinochet. So when I look around and I talk to my kids, and now I have a grandson of 6 years old, I realize that today there's much more freedom and democracy than we used to have. Only one example. There was a report this week by IDEA, a think tank, which says that 97 countries out of 158, they leave aside the countries that have less than 1 million inhabitants. So out of 158 countries that they cover in the world, 97, that means 62%, are, in spite of everything, democracies. 62%. That figure was 27% in 1975, when I was 19. So let us not lose sight of what we have achieved in spite of everything.
Aren't the democracies now not also threatened by the development of the so-called digital revolution? That suddenly whatever happens in Chile or suddenly happens in Bolivia or wherever, the whole world knows and the whole world is aware. Do you think it was always like this, or does the internet and the communication, new communication, change the realities?
Well, we don't have to demonize the technologies, including internet, So a click here, in the smartphone can do very good, and it can do very bad.
And you're connected with Beijing.
Oh yes, we are connected everywhere, especially the younger generations. But of course, with that click, you can do a lot of damage, in many ways. But it brings people together, especially the young people. It brings and makes thrive some businesses.
But it also brings protesters together, as in Hong Kong or as in Bolivia.
But protest is part of democracy. So the right to protest peacefully, because democracy is the open space, the public square, including the streets. So you don't have to demonize the internet, and you don't have to demonize protests, as long as they're peaceful, because a country, especially a democracy, a state, cannot allow for the privatization of violence.
Right.
That's a disease. The state is still the monopoly of force. You cannot give up on that, because you have to produce a secure, peaceful environment for the day-to-day lives of the people that may come predictable lives.
Yeah, but if you look at South America, which you are really an expert, there have been left-wing governments, there have been right-wing governments, there have been military governments, there has been Pinochet, people like him, there's Maduro. Has South America developed out of this extremism?
Oh yes, in many ways. Let me tell you one example.
Yeah.
In the late 70s, there were only 3 democracies in Latin America: Colombia, Venezuela, Costa Rica. That was it. Everything else was authoritarian, all South America. And Mexico was not precisely a democracy until the year 2000. So 3 countries were democracies. Today, all Latin American countries, in spite of everything, of poverty, of inequality, of violence, and of corruption, which are the major challenges, all countries, except Cuba, which is a dictatorship, Venezuela, which is a dictatorship, no? And semi-authoritarian regimes, hybrid regimes like Nicaragua. No? Until recently, Bolivia, in spite of many achievements. So most of the region, in spite of everything, is formally under a democratic regime, facing many challenges, with many contradictions. But you see what I mean? The last 20, 30 years, under this third wave of democratization. Samuel Huntington.
But if you look at Brazil, one of the richest countries of South America, very, very rich in many ways, with a new president who is on the tracks of Mr. Trump and is on the track of destroying, for example, the Amazon.
I don't like Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil. I don't like Donald Trump, the president of the United States. I don't like very much, to tell you the truth, Boris Johnson in UK, okay? Because they represent a nationalist, populist, right-wing wave, which is very much at odds with freedom of expression, independence of the judiciaries, checks and balances in a democracy. So that's not my motto. I'm critical of all of them, but the three were democratically elected. So the question, as it was posed and raised by Michael Sandel, the philosopher,
Yes.
he raised the question, do populists have a point? Because they did not come out of the blue. And his answer, which I share, is that political elites, we political elites, some politicians like to point to the political elites as if they lived in the limbo. No, I'm a politician. I belong to the political elites. And he says political elites must take responsibility of having created the conditions that allowed for the emergence of populist leaders.
Yes, but populist leaders look for the cheapest promises which they never can realize.
That's,
In many ways, Adolf Hitler was a populist.
of course.
And other dictators have been populist. There is nothing positive
That's
in
why,
populism.
That's why I hold the view, as I said yesterday in my talk, that the most important threat of the institutions of representative democracy today is this nationalist, populist wave, whether from the right or the left. The left is Hugo Chavez or Nicolás Maduro, and the right is Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, Jair Bolsonaro. That's the most important threat on the institutions of representative democracy today.
The last question is, what is the solution against these people? Because they are winning at the moment. It's not excluded that
Yes.
Mr. Trump will be re-elected.
There are two solutions. No magical solutions.
Okay.
But I would point to two elements. One is the strengthening of institutions. Because populist leaders, by definition, emerge in conditions of weakening of institutions, including the United States. How Democracies Die. That was the bestseller last year. Steve Levitsky and Ziblatt. How Democracies Die out of internal erosion, including their institutions.
Right.
No? So there's a trade-off between institution and populism. If we want to get rid of populists, we don't have to kill them or shoot them. We must strengthen institutions, parties, parliaments, with accountability, with transparency, with modes of financing that may allow for that probity and transparency. And the second element is that we have to deal with the social conditions, no, in terms of equality, against abuse and privileges, and so on, that create the conditions for the discredit of we politicians and parties and parliaments.
Thank you very much. It was
My
a great
pleasure.
pleasure. Thank you.